And the worst thing is that your media, the same media that did not catch on their own cameras that military helicopter over I-95, the same type of media, the corporate, well-paid media, just seem to miss all these facts and not notice it, which is why in the last few weeks I've been bringing you snippets from other people's investigations about 9/11. But now I want to lighten things up. You know Michael Jackson was found 100% not guilty, and he became pretty famous for doing this moonwalk thing backwards. But did you ever see a bird that did the moonwalk?
My research. It's a high-speed video camera that enables me to record at 500 frames a second. Your average camera goes at 30 frames a second, which means you're missing 90% of what's happening. So with this camera, I'm able to capture these behaviors and play them back in slow motion and just look and see what they're doing.
The big mystery is how these birds make their peculiar high-pitched calls. The images from the high-speed camera show clearly that the sounds come not from the bird's mouth, but from its wingtips. At 80 hits a second, this is quicker than the speed of a hummingbird's wing. A movement so fast it is invisible to the human eye. And there's more. The dance of the red-capped mannequin has another surprise in store. Kim's knowledge of the bird's ritual is now so intimate, she knows every move.
So, first thing you do is you're sitting on your perch and click, you fly away. Once you're out there, you come swooping in, do a loop-de-loo in the air, land on the perch, and at the end of that, what the males do is they lean over, lift up their tail, quiver the tail slightly, and nail their feathers against their sides. And now you're going to do a moonwalk, and this is the only known case of birds moonwalking to my knowledge, but they basically do these little steps backwards, and it looks like a Michael Jackson slide. It's very nice.
If Michael Jackson's moonwalk can be found in the jungles of Central America, then who knows what we might find next?
Wasn't that amazing? A bird that does the moonwalk up and down the bench. And you notice in the end, he got that cute little green female bird came his way. Pays to do the moonwalk, guys. Pays to do it, even for a bird, it pays. So I just thought you'd find that interesting. That's on the internet. You can find what you want to find on the internet. There's a lot of good information and there's a lot of crappy misinformation. Now, I love America. Of course, I was born here. My parents were born here. Some of my grandfathers and grandmothers were born in this country. And going back one branch all the way to the 1640s, my ancestors were born here in New England. But something's being done to us, and it's kind of weird. And people that really defend freedom, like Thomas Mesereau and Susan Yu and Michael Minns in Houston, Texas, these kind of attorneys at law that really go in and fight for you and force the corrupt, twisted judicial system, force them against their will to do justice is almost an oddity. It's almost the exception that proves the rule, that the system is completely corrupt. And we know lots of people There's a gal named Barbara here, which I had on my show and went to her court hearings. She was getting divorced. Her husband made a lot of money. But he didn't want to give her anything for spousal support. And they owned stocks and shares together, and they were producing a lot of money from oil wells. And he didn't want to let her have that money either. So she hired an attorney named Stephen, I think, Anderson. And I warned her, I said, I wouldn't hire that guy if I were you. I would learn the law and go in and fight your own case. She paid him, I forget how many thousands, $10,000, $20,000, and it all came out of her side of the divorce division. Now, today, she informs me she got zip. In the end, her attorney got paid. Oh, yes, Steve Anderson got his bills paid. It's called billable hours. Drag that divorce out for 5 years and just keep making billable hours. And the judge will always say, take it off the top of the divorce proceedings. If you're going to get a divorce, take Judge Regali's advice. He says, go out in the hallway, settle your things, put your anger issues aside, and just divide things up the way you want to do it, come back in agreement, and let me bless it. And Judge Regali would love to do that and just avoid all the haggling and hearings and on, days and days of testimony, and I hate her and she hates me and this, and she cheated on me and I cheated on her, and all that gets you nowhere but broke. Lawyers love it. Oh, they love it. Oh my gosh. Did you ever hear I'm going to have to get that tape where the two lawyers don't let the two people talk together and the lawyers do the talking and they twist everything to make the other side hate the other one even more? That's really what happens. It's not a YouTube joke. It's actually the way it works. I've sat in courtrooms and watched the lawyers do the dirty deed, tell their clients to wait out in the hallway, and they sit there and they do the little, oh yeah, this is how much they're worth. Yeah, we can get this much out of them. Oh, we'll postpone this, and then we'll tell them, and they do it. But I'm not supposed to tell you the truth, or am I? You know, I don't do this show just because I want to see myself getting older and more gray-haired year after year. I do this show because I hope you will learn something out of this. And it's so disappointing when I see young couple going to college court or anybody's court, and they're just determined they're going to bash each other in. You don't get along anymore. Should have figured that out before you got married. But now you're married, now you're getting a divorce, there's kids in the way. Just try to aim for 50-50. You each get the kid half the time. Split things down the middle. Be as fair as you can. Try to be more fair and just walk out of it and rebuild your life. I've seen too many people destroy their lives. And 10, 15 years later, they're still trying to get even. What a waste of human potential. Anyway, what makes America great, or used to make us great, it doesn't anymore because we aren't that America anymore. Like I said, when you see choppers firing blanks, and I know there are blanks because you didn't see tracers. I've seen M60 machine gun live on the battlefield and live in boot camp, and they have tracers. Every seventh or so bullet is a tracer, and you can see that bullet go, you see the next tracer, and then you think, and there's 6 bullets in between those tracers. You really don't want to be in front of an M60 machine gun. Because those tracers have 6 bullets in between that you don't see coming. The tracers just let the person firing the machine gun get an idea of where his bullets are going. Also lets the enemy know what's coming. But as you watch that tape, and I'll let you see it again at the end of the show tonight, you don't see any tracers. So I'm pretty certain they were not firing live ammo over Miami. But what is troubling is that I know military bases have mock villages with roads on them, that they could have done the same exercise where nobody could potentially get scared or desensitized or conditioned. So I conclude the point of that, 60 feet above live traffic on Interstate 95, the whole point was to condition us to accept this as the new normal. And George W. Bush's continuing war on terrorism. And let me remind you, Bush and that scumbag Dick Cheney the vice president that had a bad ticker should never even been allowed to be vice president. It says you're supposed to be mentally and physically healthy. He wasn't. He wasn't mentally healthy, and he certainly wasn't physically healthy. It's just too bad his heart didn't quit on him before he got Bush to okay torture. But my point is, he had 600 alleged terrorists arrested after 9/11. And years later, every single one of those 600 was released with no charges, no convictions for any terrorist act. One of the 600 was convicted of some misdemeanor that had nothing to do with terrorism, something else he'd done wrong. But you pick up any 600 Americans and go through their life with a fine comb, and I'll bet you'll find a couple of misdemeanors. It's a shame how America's being destroyed, and they're trying to keep us scared and afraid. And Mr. Wagener, I have people say, aren't you afraid they're going to assassinate you? No, I'm not afraid. I'm old. You reach a certain age, and death might be a blessing, especially if you've got a lot of aches and pains. Now that you saw the MoonWalking Bird, I want to, if you didn't catch a little message at the end of that video, I was wondering, is it possible the God of nature, maybe inspired Michael Jackson to do the moonwalk? Maybe inspired that bird. Maybe the same God of nature inspired Michael, inspired the bird. Just a thought. But Thomas Mesereau and Susan Yu did a brilliant job of defending him. And I want to point out, I haven't done all these shows pointing this out, that the four, I call the dirty four prosecutors of Santa Maria, that would be Thomas Snedden, Ron Zonen, Gordy Auchincloss, I accidentally called Squawkincloss because the way he pecked like a bird, pecking at one of the witnesses, and that other little thing called Magnicola, who only was allowed to screw up one day. And boy, did he screw up that, for which they should all be held for 3 felonies. And I've said this before. In fact, I've said it to the county supervisors last August. So my real question is, why haven't the Dirty Four been indicted? Maybe it's because everybody in the DA's office had worked with them and they're all buddies. That's why I asked the county supervisors to appoint a special prosecutor from outside Santa Barbara County who doesn't have all those friendship connections to come and look at my affidavit, look at the court record, and see it's obvious they fabricated, manufactured false evidence against Michael. But how did Michael's fingerprint get on the magazine? When Michael had been out in Nevada almost all of the time since the magazine came out till the time the sheriff's deputies confiscated it. So if Michael never touched it, how did his fingerprint get on? Because we know the boy was lying, because he had last been at Neverland in December or something, 2002, and the magazine didn't come out till October 03. Earliest printing, it would have been on the shelves in September, October 03. Michael was out in Nevada doing some kind of soft drink commercial or something, some other gigs he had going, all of which disappeared along with the money. And then he had a hard time making his first payment on that last $200 million loan to B of A. How interesting the timing. Just when he has to make the payment, Snedden comes out with these false charges in November of 03. But the grand jury doesn't have the boy put his print on the magazine until 04. If this isn't fabrication, falsification of evidence to get an innocent man who gave $300 million plus of his own after-tax money to children's orphanages and children's hospital wards to help children around the world, the vast majority of which he never even saw,